Popular vegan restaurant chain closes after angry customers mercilessly attacked it for putting meat on the menu. What are you doing putting meat in the burger? How can you have any pudding if you don't eat your meat? Let's get into it. Here we go.
Restaurants are closing. Their last day is tomorrow. The vegan community held protests last June after restaurants added meat and dairy in an effort to lure more customers. The Boyle Heights and Pasadena locations experienced a downturn during the pandemic and never fully recovered. The owners on Instagram saying, quote, "We all poured our passion into shifting the concept to regenerative agriculture or use of animals. But despite our efforts, we find ourselves in the same predicament today." The owners say they even sold their house to try and make ends meet. The Echo Park location opened in 2011.
So one of the underlying themes is it's not just, we've got Bebop Waffle House in West Seattle. That just closed because you had, a spike in increase in the minimum wage to over $20, like $21 or something like now in the city of Seattle. But you've got restaurants all across the country that tried to make it through the COVID being closed down. If you had a Democrat governor, you were closed down. If you had a Republican governor, you were probably open. How's that working out? Well, the bottom line is for a lot of these restaurants, they couldn't make it financially to get through to where they are now. And in this case, this popular vegan restaurant, and it was popular for many, many, many years, and they're making adjustments, meaning, hey, what if we take our vegan restaurant? What do they call it? Regenerative? It just means meat. I love animals. I think they are tasty. Kill them and grill them, right? Yeah, and pet the cat at home. Hey, you're not going to eat that one, right? They're killing the pets. They're killing the cats. They're killing the dogs. Now, I'm not killing them. And, if you go to a restaurant and you eat one, I prefer steak. Let's see what we got going on here. So Sage Regenerative Kitchen and Brewery. Regenerative. And it even had a brewery. Couldn't make it with the brewery. That sucks. Will close Sunday after 14 years. A move its owners, Molly Engelhart, told Eater was a sad victory for the vegans who came out in droves to protest the eatery's decision to start serving bison burgers, cheese, and other non-vegan fare in an effort to draw in new customers. You got to do what you got to do to stay in business. Although if you're a vegan restaurant and your entire business history is based on, no, we don't eat the meat here, we don't eat the eggs, and we certainly don't eat the bison burgers, making that kind of switch. Yeah, I mean, we saw the footage. The footage was just nuts. One of the other things I was considering is the location here. Here it is. It's just outside of Echo Park. Here's Echo Park Lake. Here's where that restaurant is. And here's downtown LA. So, it's not right on top of Skid Row by any means. But remember the homeless camp? They had a massive, I did a podcast on that. You had a massive, massive homeless encampment in Echo Park that was closed down. They basically emptied out the entire park. I mean, you're in that kind of area. So not great, not terrible. It had been there for a long time. It had been a viable business concern. But then, they went down the road of, well, let's just see what happens if we go down the regenerative road, meaning you're going to start eating some meat. While the restaurant with locations in Echo Park and Pasadena was one of California's most beloved plant-based bistros, it had struggled with rent and taxes for some time. And that's what you've got going on. You've got businesses that weren't able to make it after they got closed up. And then you've got high taxes and you've got high rent, all struggling with that. And then you've got high wages. Seattle, we're experiencing that. Closed is the end result. If you can't make a profit, then you close it down. These owners, I mean, I was kind of surprised to read that they had sold their home. Most financial planners probably wouldn't go down that road with you. I think this is a good call, but it sounds like they were all in. And it did not end up well for them. You're enjoying this content? Head on over to reasonabletv.com. That's our private channel. Got stories like this one. Illegal migrant torches New York City commuter. Had that whole human being on fire thing. Couldn't really show that on other networks. It's going to cost you $3.99 a month, or you can do a 14-day free trial. See what you think. Keep it going if you like it. If you don't, cancel. No harm, no foul. Thanks in advance. Then last year, Engelhardt and her husband and co-owner Elias Sosa sold their home to put money into the company in an effort to revive it. If we can just keep this going, if we can just turn that corner, and then there becomes a time period where you're like, this business does not make sense. We're putting too much money into it. We're taking money from a good asset. We're putting money into a loser. Got to shut her down. And, maybe it wasn't a loser for all those years. Maybe it made some really good money. But then, things change, circumstances change, costs go through the roof. So much of this is because businesses got closed down. They sucked up all of their savings. Because even when businesses were closed down, landlords were like, hey, you got to pay your rent. Just because you're out of business doesn't mean you don't pay rent. That's what you got reserves for. Right? And the government gave out some money. Yeah, you got some PPP money. You got some, some credit money in there, but typically not enough to cover all the money that these businesses lost just trying to keep going. In May of 2024, Sage added meat and cheese to its vegan menu. Engelhardt said it was all grown with regenerative farming methods, which are meant to have less environmental impact than traditional farming. I don't really care about any of that. Gotta be honest. Could not care less. Well, Sean, when you live on a planet that's whatever, right? I thought maybe we could merge these two things, my restaurants and my passion for regenerative agriculture, and come to some new pathway. Oh, that's a tricky one. It's literally like the, this story right here. Seattle waffle shop owner shuts down business over $20 minimum wage law that they had championed, that they had said, hey, we really support this. And yet there's this, there's a certain point at which a business gets to, and then it's like, oof, this ain't going to work out. What do we do now? Closed. So the change of adding, meat and some eggs and some whatever, dairy, failed to draw in new customers and it upset existing vegan diners. Okay. I mean, really? You're going to get really upset? They literally walked in and they protested. That's what some of the video footage we saw. They protested meat coming into a restaurant, of all things. That, to me, I think it's ridiculous. If you want to be vegan, that's fine. If a restaurant is struggling to stay afloat, hey, go support it some more. Otherwise, shut up when they make a decision to go more regenerative. Still don't really know what that means, but whatever. Furious Vegans review bombed the restaurant with 1-star reviews. Oh, we don't like what they did, so therefore the restaurant that we used to give 5-star reviews to, we're going to give it a 1-star. This is our way of protesting. We will never eat out there. They serve meat. I'm sure y'all lost a lot of your vegan base when you added meat. Disgraceful, one reviewer said on Yelp. You know what? I bet you anything, they've still got vegan options that you could eat. When you go into a normal restaurant and they have vegan options, I bet you this restaurant still has the same. So just what you want to do is you just want to ignore the meat options on the, the menu. Oh, I can't have that. Whatever. Hey, if you want to be vegan, that's fine. But these angry, loud vegans, they're just annoying because are we really making much of a change to the environment? I don't think so. I think this is all just a bunch of nonsense. I brought all my friends there to have meals, and it was a safe and delicious place for vegans. You've turned our core roots and animals in a way that is so disappointing. Well, you don't have to eat the animals if you don't want to. That's kind of a thing. You can, you've got free will and you've got choice, that whole thing. So, yeah, I mean, this is kind of one of those ultimate stories where the restaurant just decides to make a decision. And there must have been some massive discussion on that beforehand. All right, this is going to alienate probably 3/4 of our customer base. And it did. But they were willing to take that risk anyway and see if they could get over the hump. But so many of these businesses that are on the cusp of struggling to stay in business and are having issues like this, for this one, it was the fact that they made a decision and they tried to go with it and it didn't work out. For the waffle shop, it was something outside of their ability to control, which was the city of Seattle dictated that minimum wage is going up to $21. Hey, we'll just see how this works out. Oh, all those jobs you guys thought you were going to getting more wages for? Yeah, we had to let you go. You're fired. You're fired. Not good, right? And just not good. But that's the way this goes. That's the way this ball bounces. So here you've got you got the owner and they tried to make some changes. And you are going to see more and more restaurants kind of doing a hybrid thing, maybe doing some takeout, maybe doing some fine dining, just to make it go. And then they will, put the resources in to whatever space they need and try and maximize that, because there's a lot of restaurants out there that are on a super thin margin. I mean, what restaurant really isn't, right? On a super thin margin. And if they have one slight thing and, a wage increase or changing their menu entirely, those aren't small things. Those are major, major things. So, because the waffle shop one in a story in Seattle, Bebop Waffle Shop, that was going to cost, the wage increase was going to cost that small shop $32,000 in just instant more overhead. And they realized this is a no-go. We can't do this. This is, it's literally like being taxed additional money and you're already just barely making it beforehand. Top comment on the post from animal rights organization PETA: slammed the chain, writing LA's first and last regenerative kitchen, serving human washed meat, dairy, and eggs under the sham of regenerative farming, betrayed animals, the planet, and kind customers who weren't duped by your cruel choices. Cruel choices to try and stay in business. If that's a cruel choice, then go F yourself. That's just what we're doing here, right? I mean, that's just nonsense. Cruel choices. Hey, you don't have to eat them. You can still eat off their vegan menu choices. You can do that and try and shut up while a business makes it. But you didn't do that. You virtue signaled about your vegan lifestyle choices. Another critic chimed in. This is a great day for animals. One less butcher shop posing as a restaurant in town. Butcher shop posing as a restaurant. What? What are you talking about? That is such nonsense. It is. It's just nonsense. Others commented that the closure was karma for turning their backs on animals and their former clientele. I view it as they made a pivot and the pivot did not work out. And you will literally see more and more companies, restaurants in particular, make pivot decisions. Most of them won't be like this, where they literally alienate a huge portion of the customer base. But some would say, well, when you started off on that and you realized that you were super thin and you had to go to something else, unfortunately, yeah, that's the way the ball bounces. This is what happens when you betray the animals in your customer base. Quit playing the victim card, one person wrote. The fact that they sold their home and put it into the business to try and make it go doesn't sound like they're playing the victim card. But, you're an angry vegan, so I get it. You're just probably really disappointed. You know what you should do? You should go get yourself a big steak. Yeah, big steak with potato, with, some sour cream and milk product and maybe some butter, maybe some bacon. Put some bacon on that bad boy potato. Have a big steak and round it out with whatever kind of beverage you want. I don't really care. But that would probably make you happier than all of this ridiculous, they're the victim card. Well, many were sad to see the restaurant go. Most commenters still had hard feelings over the menu change. I have never, ever crapped on a restaurant for making a menu change. That's just, you know what I mean? Just don't really care. Of course, I'm not vegan either, so all bets are off, right? With one person noting, we said goodbye to Sage already. Bummer, dead animals didn't bring y'all enough money to stay open. Well, dead animals or no animals, their business model, it just didn't make sense. Couldn't do it. Couldn't keep it going. Meanwhile, others simply joked, don't worry, the restaurant will regenerate. Yeah, and some will come back in, right? Always does. There's always, life is a full circle. But a lot of these businesses in areas where you've got, extremely high food costs, you've just got high costs in general, you got high labor costs, you've got, minimum wage is whatever, you've got rent, you've got taxes. Look at all the taxes California does. That's why you're seeing restaurant after restaurant after restaurant close, because they're dealing with Democrat policy. They're dealing with liberal policy that has its impact. And that impact ultimately is, whether it's because you're a waffle shop, whether it's because you were a vegan shop and you made some choices, is that if you can't make enough profit, you will close. Because there's always a limit to how much money you can pump into a business. And then you have to say, realistically, this no longer makes sense. This does not make sense. So unfortunately for this company, no more vegan dishes. They're gone. Toast. This is what so many of us on the right, this is what so many conservatives or so many reasonable people have been talking about. You can only run your cities for so long with this kind of policy, and you're going to see more dropout than benefit. And, Seattle is just a mini version of LA, actually, it's more of a mini version of San Francisco. But Washington is a mini version of California. And look at California. I mean, highest homelessness, massive drug abuse, some of the highest taxes, highest housing prices. Everything is high that you don't want to be high, including the people, right? And so it's like, okay, you watch these policies be enacted for years and years and years, and then you go, what happened? How did this happen? Reality sets in. That's what happens. So this is just reality. This is the rubber hitting the road. And unfortunately, businesses that were thin are now no longer. Boom, done. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.